Cynthia was a nice-looking girl with long brown hair, a good figure, and an outgoing personality. A real pretty girl who knew everyone. She had a small rap sheet for drug use, theft, and burglary, and was at Topper so frequently that she had a bedroom there, always holding and dealing drugs for Boxer and his crew. Needle marks on both sides of her neck and the inside of her arm showed she was also a junkie. Boxer gave her 8 balls of heroin to sell, and the money came up short time and time again. Some customers complained she was stepping on, removing small amounts, bundles of cocaine. Small amounts of drugs and cash set down on a table somewhere disappeared regularly. Boxer suspected Cynthia was taking it, and it made him mad. "I'm tired of being stolen from," warned Enriquez as he sat in one of the bedrooms getting loaded with Mo and Chino. He and the others had been slamming speedballs all day, a mixture of cocaine and heroin that gave an up cocaine rush and a down doper ride. He'd voiced his displeasure about Cynthia several times throughout the day. Now, Boxer called everyone into the living room. Mo, Jacko, Chino, Topper, Cynthia, a known homegirl as Pee-wee, and another white fence gang member known as Popeye. They all sold heroin and cocaine for their mafia boss, and he told them that he treated them good, that nobody was sick, and that he didn't like it when someone stole from him. Everyone went stone quiet. Then he told Jocko, Mo, and Chino to follow him to the bedroom where Cynthia slept. "I know this bitch is taking my shit," he said, and ordered them to search the room for dope and money. They found nothing, but Boxer kept repeating, "I know it's her, I know it's her." His ire reached a drug-induced peak as Jocko reached into his waistband, pulled out a big black revolver, and handed it to Mo. Enriquez gave the order, "Go and do her." Little Mo grabbed the long barrel .357 Trooper Mark III with a rubber grip and stuck it in her pants. He found Cynthia in the kitchen and walked up to her. "Let's go." It was approaching midnight as he drove her up to a place nearby called Russian Hill, an isolated spot where South Concord Street dead ends at the Pomona Freeway, frequented by lovers, drug users, and occasional transients. On the way, she knew something was wrong, sensed the evil, and tried to climb out of the car at a stop sign. Mo asked where she was going, told her not to worry, and lied to her that everything was okay. She sat back in the passenger seat. It was a fatal mistake on her part. Minutes later, Cynthia was out of the car in an unlit vacant dirt lot surrounded by a natural tree-lined bunker on one side and a deserted alley on the other, supposedly helping Mo look for a bag of dope that wasn't even there. She turned and faced him as he lifted the gun and shot her right between the eyes. Her body spun and he put another slug in her upper back as she hit the ground, dead. Boxer called it a ride to hell. Mo returned alone to the hangout at Topper's carrying Cynthia's purse. He, Boxer, and Chino walked into the room where she often slept, and Enriquez said, "Now an example has been set. People will get the message. They will know not to steal from me." Mo gently handed back the murder weapon. The morning was cool and dry as one of the residents from a little row of houses across the alley noticed the corpse as he was about to go to work. Police arrived and found Cynthia's body face down in a bed of leaves. Paramedics turned her over and her face was caked with blood in a pattern of what looked like a Rorschach ink blot test. Full rigor mortis had already set in, and her right hand was placed on her chest as if to say, "Oh my God." She wore a wedding ring, big hoop earrings, a large white beret, a purple long sleeve pullover shirt, blue jeans, white socks, and a new pair of LA Gear tennis shoes. Detective Jack Forsman remembered thinking she was young. Nobody deserved to die like that. It was upsetting. He'd been a cop for 5 years in his hometown of Rahway, New Jersey, before visiting Los Angeles on vacation. Through a relative who worked as an investigator for the Federal Public Defender's Office, Forsman met some retired LAPD detectives. The Jersey cop got hooked, moved to the City of Angels a short time later, and joined the LAPD in 1980. Forsman had been a homicide detective for only a few years when he caught the Cynthia Galvadon case. "We didn't have a whole lot to go on," he recalled, "just a body." The sky was dark again by the time police detectives received a telephone call from the coroner's office informing them that the fingerprints confirmed that the victim was 28-year-old Cynthia Galvadon. It was December 24, 1989, Christmas Eve. Coroner's investigator David Campbell notified the next of kin, Edward Carlson, that his granddaughter was dead, murdered. Her wedding picture showed a pretty bride in a long white dress. It was easier remembering her that way. 2 days later, LAPD Hollenbeck Division detectives received an anonymous call from a woman who told them that Cynthia was murdered by a boxer from Emmett. The next day, Detective Forsman, who had no idea who that was, contacted the Special Services Unit, SSU, of the California Department of Corrections, a group that kept tabs on the baddest parolees, especially career criminals. Boxer was tentatively identified as Rene Olmos Enriquez, a suspected member of the Mexican Mafia. The day after, a streetwise source, in fear of her own life because of the Galvadon hit, called investigators, set up a meeting, and told them that Boxer had been muscling in on dope dealers in White Fence, was always armed, and was usually accompanied by 2 or 3 gang members, one of them Chino from White Fence. She told about the late night raids on dope houses, the threats, the continual rip-offs of money and cash. She pointed out Boxer's picture. The informant's boyfriend called next, described the Night Rider car Boxer drove, and identified Mo from White Fence as his right-hand man. He also told cops that Topper knew everything about the murder but was afraid to talk, that he was being bulldogged by a Boxer who claimed to be Emmett. Detective Forsman now had enough information to put him hard on the killer's trail. He learned that Boxer was on a reign of terror, and that even other hardcore killers were terrified of him. What he didn't know was that he had fewer than 60 hours to catch him before he murdered again. 47-year-old David Pelon Gallegos sat in his parents' home in Whittier eating a late lunch of fresh tamales and some gumbo prepared by his mother. It was his last meal. Pelon had been living with his aging parents since he was paroled from prison 20 months earlier on another in a series of drug-related charges. He was basically state-raised, first getting locked up in juvenile hall for burglary when he was only 12 years old, and then living most of his adult life behind bars. His rap sheet was 8 pages long with his repeated drug offenses, break-ins, robberies, extortion, grand theft auto, and murder. Gallegos had a bald head with ears that stuck out and a full mustache that turned down at the edges and was perched above full lips and tucked under a big wide nose held high enough to give his face a certain appearance of arrogance. It was still a thuggish look, enhanced by an upper body covered by tattoos with ink as faded as the Mafia's reputation. He was a bum and a no account who lived by handouts, recalled Boxer, and we all understood that. On the street, Pelon used what was left of his mafioso image to shake down drug dealers for spoons of heroin and cocaine to support his own habit. A friend gave him a ride to East Los Angeles, and it was just bad luck that evening when he walked into the shooting gallery operated by Enriquez and Topplers. Alright, Sam, man, I got you, man. I'm fucking up. A friend gave him a ride to East Los Angeles, and it was just bad luck that evening when he walked into the shooting gallery operated by Enriquez at Topper's house. He didn't know that 1 year earlier, Topo Peters had given Boxer the contract to kill him. It was Chino Ables who was watching the door when Pelon Gallegos demanded some free drugs. Ables was quick to tell him there were no freebies and no credit. Then, after 10 to 15 minutes of haggling, Chino explained that all the dope belonged to Boxer Enriquez, who was in the Mexican Mafia. I'm a carnal too, insisted Pelon. Chino rethought the situation. If this guy really was Emmett too, Boxer might get mad if he put him off. If he wasn't, Chino figured he'd just pay for it himself, and that way, all his bases would be covered. He gave Pelon a $10 bag of heroin, and the anxious mafioso sat down on the dining room chair, dropped the dope into a spoon, melted it with a lighter, sucked the liquid into a syringe, slammed the needle into a vein, and nodded off into a familiar stupor, only known by junkies. When Boxer walked in the back door an hour later and was told there was a carnal out front named Pelon, he knew that this was going to be a hit that just landed in his lap. The guy was not going to leave alive. Mo, Jocko, Toppler, and Chino were all hovering. Boxer kicked them all out of the room for a while and turned his full attention to Gallegos. How you doing, brother? They started talking politics, mafia small talk about who was locked up and who was out on the streets. Boxer wanted to woo him up. As time passed, Boxer asked, "You want another shot, brother?" No hardcore junkie could resist free dope. Boxer slid his chair over to Jocko, who re-entered the room. Fix him up a good one. He was cooked up a massive dose of oily black tar heroin. Once it was sucked into the rig, it was handed to Gallegos, who slowly found another vein and emptied the syringe into his arm. His head slumped down, his lips turned purple, and he passed out cold. Toppler panicked and hurried to the refrigerator for a pack of ice to revive him. I don't need no murder in my house, he thought. On the other hand, Boxer found Chino shooting up in the bathroom and asked for more dope. He came back with 9 bags, 6 heroin and 3 cocaine. The empty wrappers began piling up on the kitchen counter. Later, they lifted him into place for another round. Pelon opened his eyes. "What are you trying to do, kill me?" "No, try to relax, man. We're trying to give you some coke to wake you up." Gallegos looked at the outfit, filled to the top with familiar, deadly black juice. He had to know they were in fact trying to kill him, but he was in no position to fight. He went easy. Strong hands grabbed his arm and forced the needle into a vein that had many times before welcomed heroin. This time, it had had enough. A few hours after the overdosing began, Pelon's 5'8", 170-pound frame was as limp as a large, well-used beanbag chair. Chino had gone home. Jocko and Mo helped Boxer lift Gallegos into the Night Rider. Parked in the driveway